I am so annoyed with all of the preachy vegans out there talking to me about animal rights. I just want to eat my burger in peace. You always can tell when someone's vegan because they feel like telling you within like 2 minutes of meeting them. Regardless of your stance, hunting feeds my family. These are sentences I've heard tons of times over the past few years, and I'm sure you can relate to some, if not all, of those statements. I totally get it. Vegetarians and vegans can get a little preachy sometimes, and I'm sure you don't want to be hearing about the amount of pus that gets injected into your chicken from mass produced factories at a holiday dinner, or how your jello shot is actually made by boiling the skin, cartilage, and bones from animals when you're just trying to have a good time at a party. I'm here to tell you I truly get it. I have been switching between vegan and vegetarianism for the past several years, and I have been that annoying person pointing out how truly gross chicken wings are if you really look at them. But I've also been the person to educate others, when prompted, about the benefits of reducing your animal product consumption for the environment and for your health. Clearly, I'm not the picture of health. I'm not the kind of person who eats a bowl of plain spinach for lunch. I am, however, the person who eats a whole row of Oreos or the entire bag of spicy sweet chili Doritos after a night out at the bar, which, by the way, are both vegan. Being vegan or vegetarian does not mean you have to be that person with a green smoothie all the time, or bringing your own bag to the grocery store, just shoving animal rights beliefs down others' throats. I believe that you can make one or two small changes and make a monumental impact to yourself as well as the environment. This pitch presentation will not be to persuade you to dump out the milk in your fridge or stop you from eating that delicious ribeye dinner tonight. Today, all I want to do is educate you on how very small diet and habit changes can exponentially benefit your health, benefit our dear Mother Earth, and how choosing vegetarian or vegan options might not be as hard as you think it is. I first want to start out by talking about how the excessive inclusion of animal products in your system is connected to potential future health problems. There is this conception that carbohydrates are the main factor of weight gain and health issues, looking at you, keto diet, but in reality, it is the fat that is included in the food that might be that silent killer instead of those added sugars or carbs. That isn't to say sugar is okay to eat. It contains little to no nutritional value, and it is just as bad for you as all those studies shows, but no one really talks about the fat included. Like when you eat a cookie, it might not be that sugar that's the bad part for you, but instead maybe the large amounts of butter or lard that are also included. To break it down for you scientifically, the way our body breaks down fat is very different than how we process carbohydrates. When you eat carbohydrates, they are broken down in the stomach and form glucose. This glucose is carried through your bloodstream and alters cells in the process. Those altered glucose cells are used in one of two ways: immediate energy or transformed into glycogen. When it is used immediately for energy, your body releases right away through water or urination in your kidneys or through the CO2 of your exhaled breath. If the body does not immediately use those carbohydrates, then they'll form glycogen. Glycogen can be used in the body right as they're formed, or they will be stored in the liver for later energy use. That's the caveat, though. There's only so much room in your liver for that glycogen. When you eat excessive amounts of carbs, they are then altered into those fatty acid and deposited as fats. This process allows your body to use a large amount of those consumed carbs for energy purposes and has a much smaller amount of fatty acids created compared to the immediate consumption of fat, which turns into those fatty acids at a much quicker rate. This scientific breakdown is from registered dietitian Liz Williams from 2012, as well as a smidge from my freshman year biology class. There is also the side of the health issue of what exactly is in some meat and animal byproducts. According to the documentary made in 2017, What the Health, processed meats such as deli ham were coded by the World Health Organization as a Group 1 carcinogen, which is technically in the same grouping as tobacco and asbestos. Though the amount of consumption contributes to the possibilities of getting cancer, i.e., you need to eat a heck of a lot of it to get that far, there is still a link to those lifelong diseases. Again, according to the documentary, a Harvard study found that one serving of processed meat increases a person's chance of getting type 2 diabetes by 51%. This is just one example of how processed meats might not be as great of a dietary choice compared to a vegan or meatless option. Again, not here to preach to you and tell you to cut out every ounce of meat from your diet, but I am saying it might not hurt to switch from beef to bean burritos once in a while. The next topic I want to touch on is how veganism and your health food choices can positively impact the environment. There are so many different layers to this argument, which include the carbon emissions of livestock and factories, the amount of water it takes to grow beef or chicken over plants, or even how plant-based foods use less single-use plastic or non-biodegradable packaging products. For this presentation, I'll focus specifically on what happens before the product hits the grocery store shelves. There's a shocking fact from the 2016 EcoWatch article written by Joe Loria, stating raising animals for food produces more greenhouse gas emissions than all cars, planes, and other forms of transportation combined. So it's really common for people to talk about how they bike or walk to work when they can, or use public transportation to cut down on the pollution. But how often do you hear you should stop eating eggs because of greenhouse gas emissions, or how cow farts play a huge factor in the earth pollutions? Might be the first time I've ever said cow farts in a speech, but for a good reason. Another alarming statistic from Loria's EcoWatch article is that we could each reduce our carbon footprints and cut it in half if we took out all animal products. Just one reason why is the case that a pound of beef requires 13% more fossil fuels and 15 times more water than a pound of soy to be created. The next diagram from 2016, found on a website called Win Friends with Salad, is a really great breakdown of the environmental impact that the meat and dairy industry have. The deforestation for agricultural purposes, the water used to create just one hamburger, greenhouse gas emissions like we touched on before, and the waste that livestock produces. These are all enormous factors into why the environment is taking a downward spiral, and why, if we keep up the same habits, we will have exceeded our 565 gigaton CO2 limit by 2030. What does that mean? This is the amount of CO2 humans are able to output while keeping the global warming down below a 2 degrees Celsius increase. And if it gets above those 2 degrees Celsius, it could have a catastrophic impact on our Earth and all things living on it. At the rate we're going now with CO2 and fossil fuel emissions, we are set to emit over 5 times the safe amount by 2030, according to environmentalist Bill McKinnon in his 2019 lecture on pollution and emissions. I know I started my speech by saying I wasn't going to preach to you guys, and I may have gone back on my word at this point, but this is a really serious problem. You all have the ability to help slow these numbers way down, and one way to do that is to cut down on your animal product consumption. But how can you do that without eating a bowl of dry spinach or tofu for every meal of the day? Well, I'm here to show you how. There are so many delicious vegan options out there today, whether they be plant-based meat substitutes like the Impossible Burger, or just really great alternatives like portobello mushroom caps instead of a regular burger patty. I have scavenged the internet for vegan recipes, delicious meat substitutions, and have even spent an enormous amount of time researching if I can still eat queso. It wasn't that long, and yes, there is vegan queso. My favorite article, though, is from Thrillist magazine, written by Andy Kryza in 2018, called Fake Meats Ranked by a Devout Non-Vegetarian. Andy lists 13 name brand meat substitutes that have very similar tastes and textures to the meaty Big Brother, and I can attest that these are all extremely delicious. Morningstar brand is my personal favorite. They have everything from vegan chicken nuggets, burgers, bacon, and Amy's brand carries tons of products for vegans and vegetarians, like frozen meals perfect for work, or even delicious pizza. These options are doing the most. Unclogging your arteries, helping the planet, creating a better you. So now that I've promised not to preach, but did it anyway, I want to end on one final note. This isn't a change that can be made overnight. It's very hard to incorporate all of these aspects into your life. Minutes before I recorded this speech, my mother handed me a cheese-filled, bacon-wrapped chicken breast and told me to enjoy. And I ate it. My family is the type where if you don't eat the food given, and that's that. Veganism is not an option when I come home for the weekend, but I can make up for it during the week by eating a cheeseless, sour creamless sofritas burrito from Chipotle, or just enjoying some hummus instead of string cheese as my after-work snack. These small changes you can start to make in your life will benefit your health and the earth, but can also be traded out for some delicious substitutes. And who knows? Maybe my mom will come around to the idea of a tofurkey for Thanksgiving.